lab exam for them. And if you get 60 over 100, don't be sad, because there's plenty of opportunity to make up. But I noticed that ever since I did the practice lab exam, students do much better. It's unbelievable. In this quarter, the 242 students, 75% of them got 100 and above in their lab exam. So it seems that the word is out, my style of testing, and they know how to study, and they're just here. The key is to just be always looking at the microscope. You need to spend the time. You need to come in here and do your job and put the effort. If you put the effort in, you get rewarded. But like I said, if you don't do well in the first lab exam, I think it's 125 questions, so there's 25 points extra credit. And still, if you don't do well, you will see in the second lab exam, same amount of extra credit. So there's plenty of opportunity for you to pull your grades up. Besides, I try and help as much as I can. So there will always be additional extra credit here and there and here and there. Just be sure you're here and be sure you do your job. And be sure when you come in here, you pack your head. Your head is ready, because sometimes I just give you a pop quiz, and if you don't take advantage of that, then you're going to drop. You go into apoptosis, right? Okay, so we start with histology. You know the word cytology. Now we look at histology, the study of tissues. So if you notice, or if you look at the slides that I have prepared, the only time that you will be able to see one cell is when you did your cheek swab, because that's when you make a smear like that, you were able to separate them. But normally in the body, they don't exist as individual cells. They are part of other cells. So 2 or more cells make up a tissue. In the comprehensive finals, there'll be, I pick up a few random words defined. So you should remember the definition of atom, cell, now tissue, cytology, histology. And as far as the body is concerned, there are only 5 basic tissue types. And don't forget this. The body is made up of only 4 basic tissue types. Remember this and memorize it, the 4 basic tissue types. In your final exam, there will be a section there. I ask you to give me the 4 basic tissue types. You need to remember. It's epithelium, connective, muscle, and nervous. Or maybe there was a true or false. I say the tissue types that make up the body are epithelium, connective, muscle, and adipose tissue. True or false? It's false, right? It's epithelium, connective, muscle, and nervous. Why do they have their own names? It must be the job of this one is different from the job of this, from this, from this. Which also means that if this gets injured, this one or this one cannot take over the job of that one. Does it make sense? That's why, remember, your nerves and your muscles have no centrioles. So if they get injured, let's say your heart, it gets replaced by scar. And so it doesn't contract as normally as it used to. So that's why you have to change activities now, depending on what remains of the heart. Is it clear to everybody? Okay? Makes sense? So that's why you need to know the function. If you know the function, because in the final exam, I'll just randomly pick a few structures and you tell me what is the basic tissue type of the following. So you should know. Okay? Epithelium, look at this. It says it covers and it lines. So of the 4 basic tissue types, epithelium is the only tissue type that you see because it's the covering. So everything else is epithelium. Like you open your mouth, what you see there is epithelium. Okay? Because it covers and it lines, does it make sense? It must be the one that secretes, right? When you sweat, it must be from epithelium. Your glands, all your glands are also epithelium in origin. Epithelium type. And because it covers and it lines, I am thinking they must be tight, closely packed, the cells. Because it covers one cell, next cell, they're all tightly packed. Okay? So when you look at it under the microscope, I see very cellular, no space in between. I know it's epithelium. Okay? Because that's its job, right? It covers or lines. What do you think? What do you think can be a function of epithelium now that I know it covers, it lines? It must be it absorbs. Okay? It must secrete. In my stomach or in my lungs, that must be the part where exchange can happen. Because it's the one that has an outside, exposed surface. So exchange must happen in an epithelium type of tissue. Look at connective. You're going to write down connective tissue is the most abundant basic tissue type. So look at what it does. It's like it's the one that connect. It supports, it protects, it binds organs. If you buy pork chop, right? The skin of the pork chop, there's the skin. Isn't that epithelium? Then there's the meat, the one that we like to eat. That's the muscle, right? Then there's the bone. The bone must be connective tissue. The fat here must be connective tissue. And you see some of it's like a white strand that is nervous tissue. So you know the function of muscle. It contracts to move. And as it contracts, look at this. It generates heat. So you're able to maintain your body temperature because there's muscle contraction going on. That's why you notice if you rotate or if you're taking care of someone who's paralyzed, that part of the body that's paralyzed, it's cold. It's not able to generate heat. So you have to put a blanket. Okay? Do you see the word generate heat here? No. You see it here? No. They have their own job. You see? Okay? And finally, the nervous tissue is the one that responds to changes in environment so that you're able to respond. So if this is injured, you won't be able to move. You won't be able to talk. It's hard for you to maintain anything. Okay? So let's look at the first tissue type, epithelium. This is what you're going to write down in your cheat sheet. Your histology notebook, right? The first sheet there, key features. What makes epithelium epithelium? What are the characteristics of epithelium? Look, because they're the ones that has an exposed surface, right? They must be very cellularity. Do you understand the word cellularity? Okay? They're tightly packed because it maintains boundaries. How can you maintain a boundary if they're separated, right? So they are very cellular, and you will see that under the microscope. Very cellular. And they are polarity. What does this mean? One surface does not look, but how this looks like doesn't look the same as this side here. That's why you have to identify the apical surface, then the basal surface. So a lot of times here in the basal surface, you find where the nucleus is. Here, Maybe some of the cells there will have cilia over here. You don't have cilia here. So it's polar. The surfaces don't look the same. Okay? Attachment. They must be attached to each other plus to the underlying tissue. Right? If not, they will fall off. So what are the different types of attachment? You call them cellular junctions. These attachments, the first, and you have it in your PowerPoint, you have your, is called the tight junction, and you write it with a capital T, tight junction. Right? These attachments are nothing but proteins that glues these epithelial cells together. Okay? So the tight junctions are protein attachments that protect, so that's why I put the capital T here, to remind you that tight junctions protect the apical or attach your epithelial cells on the surface right here, effectively forming like an umbrella, protecting them from the outside surface. Okay? Tight junction, capital T. Then you also have the adherence junctions and your desmosomes. Adherence junctions and your desmosomes. They're right here. They are the side-to-side on or lateral surface attachments of your epithelial cells. They have to be glued to each other. So on top, we call it tight junction. On the lateral surface, you call it adherence junctions and desmosomes. And then right here, on the basal surface, you have the hemidesmosomes. So it's like stapled. You're stapled together and to the underlying surface. This is your hemidesmosome. So tight junctions, adherence junctions, desmosomes and hemidesmosomes. Okay? Then there is a junction called gap junction. These are also here, except there's a gap. They're made up of proteins called connexons. You don't need to know that. But there's a gap, an opening. This permits the movement of substances from one to the next, to the next, to the next. That's how they communicate with each other. Okay? So you think you got that tight? Adherence and desmosomes, and then hemi. The way I try to remember hemi, like it has a hump, or like that over here, the tight over there. And so the three must be here. The gap very easy because they communicate. It cannot be here or here, it must be here, gap. So they communicate. And then the adherence, it's like there's something protruding, I don't know, the letter B over there. That's over here, side to side. Okay? And then the hemi on the basal surface. So that's how they're able to form boundaries and line. They hang on to each other. So attachment. Another important characteristic of epithelium is it is avascular. It has no blood supply of its own. So it relies on the underlying connective tissue for nourishment. If there was no connection, this will die. Your epithelium will die. It has no blood supply of its own. So if I had a cut and there was no blood, it must be just the epithelium that was cut, not the connective tissue. Right? Okay? If there's blood, I know it's deep. It affected the connective tissue. Okay? So, does it make sense? If it has no blood supply of its own, it constantly dies. Besides, it's always exposed, right? So, of all the 4 basic tissue types, this is the one that has the highest rate of wear and tear. Does it make sense? So, you have to keep replacing it. High rate of regeneration, cell division. Okay? Do you think it makes sense that it will have a good nerve supply? If it's the one that's outside. If it has no good nerve supply, I'm going to cut it, no problem. You don't feel anything. This is the one that's supposed to protect you. Must have a good nerve supply. Okay? So, if you're able to fulfill these characteristics, I know the tissue I'm looking at is epithelium. Okay? Okay? And so, look at epithelium. There are 2 ways to characterize or describe epithelium. It's either according to how many layers there are or the shape. If it's flat, you call it squamous. And that was how your cells look like when you did your cheek swab, right? The fried egg, it's flat. It's squamous. If it's shaped like a cube and distinctly, look at where the nucleus is. The nucleus is centrally located. It is cuboidal. When it is elongated, right, like that, and look at the difference between the shape of the nucleus here and here. This is columnar. Okay? Look at the nucleus. It's closer to the basement membrane. Right? Or you can also classify your epithelium as either simple or stratified. Mean simple, 1 layer. Stratified, many layers. There is also another type of stratified called transitional. We're going to talk about it in a minute. But there is this pseudo-stratified. Pseudo-stratified, you call it pseudo because it's a fake. It is not stratified. It is also simple. But it looks like it's many layers. But this one, you see all of the cells reach the base. It's one cell, they all reach the base. It's just one. It looks like many layers, but it's just one. Your slide for your histology test, there is only one pseudostratified tissue that I want you to draw, right? In your list there, it says pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. So in the test, if you see a slide that is ciliated, automatically answer is pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. Okay, let's look at the difference between simple and stratified. What do you think? Look at this one. This is simple squamous epithelium. Simple squamous is just 1 layer. Okay? I'm going to go back to this picture over here. Can you tell me? I know you can. What do you think? What can be a function of a simple layer of cells that stratified layers cannot do? Simple, 1 layer of cells, what can be a function here that stratified cannot do? Yeah. Yes, secretion, very good. Secretion, right? So this one, very easy to secrete. This one is going to be hard. This one, how can it secrete? It's going to pass through many layers. So secretion, very good. What else? about exchange. Very easy to happen here, right? So that's why I'm thinking in my lungs must have simple type of epithelium. Exchange of gases happens there. So look at your picture of simple squamous epithelium. You see how very thin that simple epithelium is? Look at this one. This is simple squamous epithelium. This one right here. Okay? Let me go to... Okay, so this was your cheek swab. That's a squamous cell. You see, it's flat like a fried egg. This, look at this one. This is, I see it's very tightly packed. Epithelium, epithelium, epithelium. This is also epithelium. This one over here. Why? I see a free space, the white. That's the free space. So this cell's lining the free space is called epithelium. It's just this one layer over here, this one. This one over here is another epithelium. There's this own free space, so that's another epithelium. I just want you to look at this one over here. Can you see that? So it's just one layer. Flat, simple squamous epithelium. So I know that squeezing or exit, filtration, exchange, very easy to happen there. Okay? So this is actually what I love to use for the lab exam, this slide. And I'll have the pointer pointing right there. Identify. You're going to write simple squamous epithelium. So then maybe I'll ask, where do you find this in the body? Maybe I'll ask, how many cells, how many nucleus do you think? Identify the structure under the pointer. This is the nucleus of one simple squamous cell, nucleus. There's the other nucleus, okay? And then maybe I'll ask, how many do you think will be present in each cell? How many of these? One per cell. Then maybe I'll ask, what do you think can this type of tissue do that many layers will not be able to do? So exchange, right? Filtration, that diffusion, all of that. Osmosis, very easy in simple squamous epithelium, right? So the next simple type is called simple cuboidal. Can you see? Look at this one. Can you see this? There. You see that? Always look for the free space. So in the test, I will always use a microscope with a pointer. Identify. So it's pointing to here. First, I look. It's cellular, tightly packed. Must be epithelium. And I see there's a free space. I just concentrate on this one, where the pointer is. Look at this, don't look at the rest. And I see it's round, with round nucleus. It's one layer, simple cuboidal. Right? What can this do? It can secrete, right? It can absorb. So just knowing that the job is secretion, absorption, you can already figure out where you can find them in the body. Okay? We're going to keep looking at slides until you're very comfortable. Another type, this is called simple columnar epithelium. See? Look. Again, because this is another tissue type. This is no longer epithelium. Don't you think so? Because it's not tightly packed. So in the test, I'll have a pointer like that. You just identify. I see one layer, very tightly packed. Epithelium, simple. Now I know it's simple columnar because it's elongated and the nucleus is also spherical in shape. Base. Maybe I'll ask, identify this surface. You're going to write apical surface. Identify this surface. Basal surface. Okay? What do you think? Secretion absorption also happens in this layer, right? Is this as protective as if it was many layers? No. This is another type of simple columnar epithelium. And this is very, very common in your GI tract. And I want you to remember this line. In the past, I love using this line. So identify, and you're going to write simple columnar epithelium. And then I'll say, identify the structure under the pointer. This is what's referred to as a goblet cell. Like the goblet for drinking your wine, you see? So these are all columnar cells. Can you see it's columnar cell? Some of the columnar cells, their job is to make mucus. You see? This is actually mucus. And they're going to secrete that into the surface right here to coat your GI tract. So it's not, it's protected from your digestive enzymes right here. So what is mucus? Isn't that protein? Right? So what do you think? How did this cell make that mucus? You remember protein synthesis? That's why we had to discuss protein synthesis. So maybe my question will be, identify the structure under the pointer. You're going to write mucus in goblet cell, or just mucus. Then maybe I'll ask, this substance, oh, what type of substance is this one? You're going to write protein. Then maybe I'll ask you, how do you think did the cell make this substance? Protein synthesis. Then maybe I'll ask, what are the organelles involved in making this substance? Ribosome, rough endoplasmic, Golgi body. Then maybe I'll ask you, how is this substance released into the surface? Exocytosis. You remember that? Exocytosis. Okay? So again, the key is tightly packed. So now let's go back. Let's look at this one. The difference between, you see simple, look, simple squamous. You see that? Simple squamous. Can you tell me what this one is? Because I see a free space there. This is also epithelium, right? There's a free space. What type of epithelium? Free space. What type of epithelium?
Cuboidal.
Huh?
Cuboidal.
Yes, cuboidal, isn't it? Is it simple or stratified?
Simple.
Yes, simple cuboidal. Very good. Okay? So what do you think? What can this do that this one is not able to do? This must be better for exchange. Simple squamous must be better for exchange. Cuboidal must be better for secrete, absorb. Okay? Then, now, is it getting, look at this one. This is a much nicer slide, right? Simple cuboidal. See that? Let's look at this one again. Simple columnar. Then you will have this slide under the microscope. Again, the key is to find this cilia. So I'm going to have a pointer, identify. When you see the cilia, what is the answer? The only correct answer is pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium. There's no other answer. Okay? I always like to ask, how many layers of cells do you see here? One. Only one, right? It is pseudo-stratified. It is only one layer of cells. I like to ask also, identify the structure under the pointer. That's the cilia. Then I always like to ask, in your respiratory tract, predict what happens to the patient if this one gets injured. What do you think will happen? Difficulty of getting rid of phlegm, right? So you'll say that the patient will now have to start coughing, easily damaged by smoking. So when that gets damaged, it's no longer brushing. So you have to do the brushing yourself. You have to cough. Okay? Okay? So where is this common? Respiratory tract. So now let's look at, so you're familiar now with your simple squamous over there. See? Flat. And this is what I like to use in your lab exam. So train your eyes on this one. Okay? Just this part right here. Simple squamous. Then, what's this one? What's this tissue type? Simple columnar, right? And you know the answer if I have the pointer here. You know this is mucus. That's the goblet cell. What is that? It's protein. What's the basic building blocks of proteins? Amino acids, isn't it? Amino acids. Okay? Does it make sense?
What is the protein on it?
Huh?
Which one was the protein?
This mucus is
Oh,
protein.
mucus.
Yes.
The goblet cells.
The goblet cells, that's right. What do you think? Do you agree then? Because epithelium is the one that has a free surface. Did you notice that most cases of cancer involve epithelium? Because they're the ones that's always exposed. So they're the ones that can be harmed easily. Look at this. What is the answer here? The key is this cilia. So it is pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium, right? Right there. And then how many layers? Just one. Don't write 2, 3, 4. Some people are 17 layers. Where did they get that? Just one, okay? You have this on your, I think in Canvas I also have a practice histology exam, so you can practice. Look at this. Now, this is, yes, very good. It's stratified. It's many layers. This is a different, before I get to that one, look at this one first. This one. This is also stratified. Very good. Many layers. I see many layers. Okay? And the name of the stratified tissue takes after what is the topmost one. Look at, the topmost is flat. So stratified squamous, right? Look at, what do you think can this do that simple cannot do? Stratified can protect you. It's many layers. So it's mainly for protection. So where do you think you'll find this? I'm thinking my skin. So this is how my skin looks like. It's stratified squamous. Okay? Wherever, the lining of my mouth, because there's exposure, stratified squamous right here. I'm always eating, there's always something going on there. The vaginal epithelium, stratified squamous. And now we look at this part right here. This is also stratified. But look at this one. There is no, I don't see a definite shape. This is called transitional epithelium. Because it can actually transition from maybe cuboidal to flat. This is only found in your urinary system, your bladder. Beginning from the pelvis, the pelvis, the ureter, then the bladder. to the tip of the urethra. And the job of, especially in the bladder, is when the bladder expands, it can flatten to just a few layers. When it's empty, it goes back to this shape. So be sure to see the difference between. Look at the difference. We know this is stratified, it's many layers. I hope you can tell the difference. See the difference? Stratified, but topmost is flat. Here, stratified, topmost is still very nice. I call them balloon cells. They look like balloons to me. Same with this one, see? Stratified, several layers. But the topmost is not flat. It's transitional. Okay? Okay? So then the next tissue type is called, so be able to tell me where you can find them. So there's a few things, right? Your stratified squamous, very easy in your skin. Transitional, very easy in your bladder, your urinary bladder. Your columnar epithelium, just by looking at it, I hope you remember. You remember the mucus. So very easy. You're going to write in your GI tract. Because where do you need mucus protection? By GI tract. To protect it from the digestive enzymes that's in there. Okay? The cuboidal, the simple cuboidal. So this was simple columnar, right? The simple cuboidal, very easy. You can find it in your kidney tubules, or I think better for you to remember any gland, your mammary gland, your salivary glands, they are simple cuboidal. Your endocrine glands, it makes sense because it's easy for them to make the hormones and then they secrete it. Whereas the way I try to remember, they don't have, the cuboidal, they don't have to protect themselves because there's nothing acidic in there. Whereas the simple columnar, you see, they have to protect themselves. That's why they're columnar in shape. You just have to make up a story in your head. So I'm thinking this must be in my GI tract because my GI tract has acidic secretions. Where in my breast, the mammary glands, you just make milk. It's not acidic. So cuboidal. Okay? Then simple columnar, right here, it's just one layer. The best for you to remember, or the easiest, must be my lungs. What you think? Because there's exchange of gases. Can you imagine if the gases have to go through a thick layer? Very hard. Okay? So now we're going to look at our connective tissue. This is connective tissue. By the way, before we look at connective tissue, your glands are also epithelium. You're not going to be required to classify them as simple tubular, acinar, coiled. Just be sure to know if it's simple cuboidal, simple columnar. But you need to know how you classify glands in terms of their secretion. So we're just going to limit ourselves to the study of exocrine glands. You're going to study them all when we take up the integumentary system. There are two types of glands, exocrine and endo. Exo, outside, endo, inside. So the glands that we're going to talk about first are the exocrine glands. Sweat. When you secrete sweat, you secrete it outside. Breast milk, you secrete outside. Saliva, outside. So those are exocrine types of secretion. And there really are two general types of secretion. Merocrine and holocrine. This third type, apocrine, is really a merocrine secretion. But look at, this is sweat. So merocrine secretion, look at their products, they release it to the outside. The cell is still intact. Example is sweat, breast milk, the product is still intact. when you see the word holoquine, whole, the whole cell becomes the secretion. This is your sebaceous gland, the oil glands. So these cells, they make the secretion like oil, and then the whole cell becomes the secretion. That's why if you look at this one, you compare it to this one. You see, this one has a high rate of cell division because the whole cell becomes the secretion. Holoquine, like your suicide cell, and meroquine. You see, that's why we had to discuss our protein synthesis. This is showing protein synthesis. That's how you make all your sweat, your enzymes, your milk, protein synthesis. Okay? So now we look at by the way, apocrine secretion is nothing but merocrine. It's just, this is your, the ones that give you body odor. So P for puberty. It's too much for you guys. You have a lot to know already, but so I'm not as strict as this one. If you don't remember apocrine, merocrine, as long as you write merocrine, that's good. You differentiate between merocrine and holocrine in terms of what? The type of secretion. Holocrine is oil. Sebum. Merocrine is not oil. So must be sweat, milk. But as long as the secretion is something oily, it was made by holocrine secretion. Okay? Apocrine is nothing but your body odor. Okay, so next will be connective tissue. Look at connective tissue. It is the most abundant tissue type. So look at the function. Now, as far as connective tissue is concerned, in your cheat sheet, in your histology notebook, what are the key features? What makes it connective tissue? It is connective tissue if I see cells embedded in a matrix. So the cells, look at the cells in connective tissue, they are separated. And the matrix, I see ground substance and fibers. So this is where I'll see fibers. You'll see that under the microscope. They look like hair, the strands, or big lines. Those are fibers. So let's look at the fibers first. There are only 3 types of fibers. You have collagen, elastic fiber, and reticular fiber. Those are the 3 fibers that you will ever find in the body. You want to guess what is their composition? Is it protein, carb, or fat? What do you think? Are the fibers protein, fat, or carb? Yes, it is protein. Protein synthesis again, you see? So they all have their own function, right? Collagen is the one that's responsible for the tautness of your skin. So if you have injury to collagen, your skin will sag. Elastic fibers is responsible for this. When you pinch yourself, it goes, like the elastic rubber band, right? If you pull this, then you let go, it goes back to its original shape. Like if you get pinched, let go, goes back. But if you injure this one, what will happen? Wrinkles. So if you injure collagen, the skin sags. If you injure elastic, there'll be wrinkles. Or the stretch marks. After we give birth, I have stretch marks. That's the one, because you broke the elastic fiber. Reticular fiber is for filtering. So you find that in your lymph nodes, in your liver. Okay? What is this ground substance? That's nothing but the space, like the jello, that holds the fibers and the cells of the connective tissue in place. Okay? So what's the composition of the ground substance? This are you familiar with glucosamine, chondroitin, right? The osteobiflex. That's it. That's the glucosamine. That's why when we get old, this one you don't make as much. So you replenish it by taking your glucosamine. It keeps the fibers and the cells of connective tissue in place. Okay? So now let's look at the different cells. So there are many different types of cells that you find in connective tissue, and you'll encounter them as we proceed with the study of A&P. But for now, I want you to know fibroblast. In every cell, in every slide of connective tissue, some of this you may not see, but this one always is present. Because the fibroblast, I call it the godfather. This is the one that makes the fibers. The collagen, the elastin, reticular fiber. They are all proteins. So how do you think it makes it? Protein synthesis again. Okay? Then I want you to remember these mesenchymal cells. This is your stem cells. Connective tissue has stem cells. So that's why, did you notice? I always remember the Sultan of Brunei in the Philippines when I was practicing there. I remember he would always come, like once a year maybe. In the hospital we see him for what? Liposuction. Then he goes home, he comes back, liposuction again. Why? If you don't change your diet, you have days, then this will just become fat cells again. Because you have stem cells. What are adipocytes? Adipocytes are the fat cells. So these are the different types of cells that you have all of these other cells. You will encounter them as we move on with the study of A and P. But know those main cells. Okay? So look at how your connective tissue looks like. Look, I don't see a free space. First and foremost, what is obvious? Fiber. Once you see the fiber, automatically it's connective tissue. So what is this thick pink fiber? That's the collagen. So what is this fine fiber right here? That's reticular. Okay? And there's wavy fibers right here. Elastic fiber. Okay? And what cell? Can I see will I be able to see all the cells that we talked about? Maybe, maybe not, depending on where it's taken. But the one cell that you will obviously always see is your fibroblast. It makes the fiber. And here it is, right there. And I'll show you. If you look at this picture over here, you see the fibroblast over here. It's the unique feature of a fibroblast, the nucleus. It's like it's got pointy edges because it's being pulled by the fiber that it makes. So that's the key, because you need to know that when we look at the smooth muscle, it almost looks the same. So you have to really look at the nucleus. If it has pointy edges, it must be a fibroblast. Okay? So look at this one, adipose tissue. Adipose tissue is the easiest to identify. This one very easy also. This is areolar connective tissue. You know when you buy your chicken, the raw chicken, and you pull the skin, there's that like cobweb thing. That's the areolar connective tissue. This is the one that can become fat. That's where you find all the stem cells. So if we eat too much fat, it's under your skin, that areolar connective tissue, and you can just pack that with adipose. So if we eat too much fat, the areolar becomes adipose, like this. So where is the adipose cell? This one adipose cell, one adipose cell, one adipose cell. Where's the nucleus? Right there. Does this adipose cell, does it contain all the other organelles we talked about? Yes. It's just covered in view by your adipose, the fat. So I always like to ask, identify, you're going to write adipose tissue. Maybe I'll ask you, where do you find this in the body? You tell me wherever you find it, right? Then I always ask, identify the structure under the pointer. You're going to write fat. Globule. This is what's referred to as inclusion body. They're not in any organelle, so they're just including themselves. Okay? And maybe I'll ask you, what type of compound is this one? Organic compound, right? So, what are the basic building blocks here? Fatty acids. Okay? There are two types of fat, right? The brown fat and the yellow fat. The brown fat is what we find in babies. Brown, it's called brown because it is very vascular, lots of blood, and lots of mitochondria. Because babies, they're a ball of fat, aren't they? And they need that brown fat because they can't go get up and get themselves a blanket when they're cold. So their fat, God made it so that when they get cold, this one can just, the metabolism, they have lots of mitochondria to boost metabolism. So hopefully that can maintain thermogenesis. Okay? For us, we can get up and get our blanket, so our fat becomes yellow fat. That's the only difference, but fat is fat. So here's another type of connective tissue. I see fibers again. That is reticular. It really looks like this under the microscope. They have their own job. This one you only find in your liver, in your lymph nodes, in your spleen. And their job is to trap. It reminds me of the bag of oranges in that net that you buy. So you trap the oranges in there. This one you're trapping dead red blood cells maybe. You're trapping bacteria. So there's the reticular fibers. What's this white over here? That's the ground substance, the glucosamine. Okay? So now look at another version of connective tissue. Fibers. That's collagen. The fibers are, and look at, the fibers are running in one direction. You may think it's muscle. That's why I want you to train your eyes on the shape of the nucleus. You see? The shape of the nucleus has pointy. If it's being pulled, it's collagen. You can just write collagen because these are all collagen fibers. Connective tissue, collagen. Where do you find collagen? That's the one, that's the basic composition of your tendons, right? Tendon. So you can just write tendon. Look at this other type of connective tissue. This is, see? If there is, this is connective tissue, this is fiber. I see fibers. But I see king. If it's king, wavy, it is elastic. Very good. Elastic connective tissue. You see the difference between this one and this one. This is a nicer one, see? Elastic connective tissue. Okay. Another type of connective tissue you call cartilage. So here, these are the cartilage cells. See, they're spread apart. The cartilage cells are called chondrocytes. Where's my glucosamine? Right here. This is the ground substance. There are three types of cartilage. Hyaline cartilage, fibrocartilage, and elastic cartilage. The difference between the three is how the fibers appear. In hyaline cartilage, the collagen fibers and the ground substance are 1:1 ratio, so it blends with the ground substance. You don't even see it. It looks like it doesn't have fibers, but there's collagen fibers here. You know the chewy part of the bones? I like to chew that. That's hyaline cartilage. Your nose right here, hyaline cartilage. Okay? This is fibrocartilage, you see? I see the chondrocyte, so I know it's cartilage. But now, the fibers are very obvious. This is fibrocartilage. And differentiate the fibers in fibrocartilage with elastic cartilage. Look at the elastic cartilage. Because the elastic fibers are being stretched and it looks like, it almost looks like reticular, but you see very distinct the chondrocytes. So elastic cartilage in your ears and in your larynx, there's elastic cartilage there too. Connective tissue has the most variation as far as the appearance of the different types. Look at this one, you won't make a mistake. Bone is connective tissue. So what do you call the cells of bone? Do you know osteoporosis? So it's osteo, right? Osteocytes. So where are the bone cells? Right there. We're going to study how they became like this. And look at them. They're arranging themselves around a central blood supply. There's the blood supply right there. And they're hardened tissue, right? Calcified. So because they're hard, it's very hard for substances to move to get nourishment. So what they do, they hover around a central blood supply. And their hands reach out there. It's almost like it's relaying. This cell here gets the nourishment from there. And then the other hand relays the nutrients to the next slide and next osteocyte to the next, to the next, to the next. Okay? So osteocytes, connective tissue. Where do you find it? You should be able to tell me. Right? And then finally, we have, not finally, the third type of tissue is called muscle. So muscle tissue, you should know the function. It generates heat. So that's the one that's important for maintaining body temperature. That's the one that makes you move. So in the test, if I ask you, please give me the basic tissue type of the following. Maybe the one that pushes your blood, you're going to write muscle, right? Makes you pee-pee, it must be muscle. So there's three types: skeletal, cardiac, and smooth muscle. Skeletal muscle is striated. It really looks like this. Striated, meaning it has those stripes. Striated. It has many nucleus per cell. So this is one cell, one cell, one cell. Look at it, has many nucleus. It's multinucleated and it's voluntary. Right? If I don't want to reach out something or reach to or write it, I'm not going to have to. If I don't want to smile, I don't have to. So it must be skeletal muscle. Okay? Where is it attached? Attached to bones. Look at cardiac muscle. Cardiac muscle is the same. It is also striated, but it only contains one nucleus per cell. This is a nicer striation. See? It contains only one nucleus per cell, uninucleated. And it's involuntary, right? You can't tell your heart to stop today, take a break. You can't. It just keeps, it's involuntary. Where do you find it? In your heart. Very unique to cardiac muscle is this intercalated disc. It really is dark under the microscope. So this is the junction between one cell and the next. So would you agree? In the intercalated disc will be a lot of gap junctions. Because that's how they're able to communicate. That's why when your heart contracts, it contracts like it was just one big cell. Fast transmission of pacemaker potential in the heart. Okay? Look at this smooth muscle. See, that's why I told you you need to train your eyes on the difference between collagen and muscle, because smooth muscle looks like collagen, except please look at the shape of this nucleus. I call it sausage-shaped nucleus, because look at it's shaped like a sausage, and there's no pooling of the sides of the in collagen fibers. So is it striated? No, it is non-striated. That's why you say smooth in appearance. It is uninucleated, involuntary, right? You can tell your bladder to stop contracting. And then lastly, the last basic tissue type is nervous tissue right here. There's your neuron. And look at how neurons, and there's other cells here called neuroglia. We're going to study them more when we take up the nervous system. This is just an introduction of all the tissue types that you will see. Look at how a neuron adapts to its job. It has many antennas, see? It has to monitor everything that's going on. You call them processes. And the processes are your dendrites and the axon. And then there's the cell body. So this is the whole cell, including the processes. That's the whole cell. Except it adapts to what it's supposed to do for you. So here is skeletal muscle. I know it's skeletal because look at the number of nucleus. So I like to always ask, how many nucleus will you find in this specimen? You're going to write many nucleus. Maybe I'll ask you, give me one function that this can do that the other tissue types cannot do. You're going to write contract, generate heat. Okay? What is this? Skeletal muscle again. I see the striation and I see many nucleus. Look at this one. This is cardiac because I see the dark. Do you see the dark lines? Do you see that, or is it faint? You see the dark lines? The intercalated disc. Besides, compare this skeletal muscle with cardiac muscle. Cardiac muscle, there's branching. There's branching right here. You see there's branching, which you don't see in skeletal muscle. And now look at the sausage nucleus. That is smooth muscle. Very, very distinct of smooth muscle. Compare it to collagen, your tendon, right here. See? No sausage. But look at the sausage right here. See? And then this is your nervous tissue. Of course, you will include in your drawings mitosis. So in your circle drawing in the histology, even just one circle, you can draw all the phases of mitosis. That's good enough for me. So this is, what is this? What's this cell? This is a cell in interphase. Right? This one is prophase. It's dark. You see the difference? This one, metaphase. right? This one? Did you say telophase? You can write telophase, or it is telophase, or late anaphase. In the test, if you wrote anaphase or telophase, I usually consider that because sometimes it's confusing. But you can have, if you wrote metaphase or prophase, wrong. Anaphase, telophase, that's okay. Metaphase, okay. There's another one right there. Okay. Then the last drawing. So you know how tissues look like. We'll combine two or more tissue types to make an organ. So there's only one organ I want you to draw, and that's the skin. So that should be your clue. I don't know why students always make that mistake. The question, it says, identify this organ. Key answer is skin, right? Because that's the only organ I'm asking you to draw. Someone will want the stomach, the whatever. Skin. Okay, it's the skin. Then I always ask, I used to ask, there are two basic tissue types that you see here. What is the more superficial one? Epithelium, right? What is the deeper one? Connective tissue. We're going to study this more when we take up the skin integumentary system on Monday. So break, and then you can use the rest of the time looking at your tissue slides and drawing. If you want to stay, you can stay. You can stay until 3. I'm here until 3. Every day, not every day, Monday to Thursday, I'm here. Tuesday and Thursday, I'm here from 11 to 3. Monday, Wednesday, I'm here from until 3 o'clock. I think I'm just going to move the slides here so that you can...
Want me to help you?